Juneteenth was just Friday. It's hard for me to grasp that people who were enslaved in Georgia did not know they were free, were still slaves, even though legally they were free. So it was like, who will carry that message? Who will pass that on? Isn't it we who are invited to help set people free? And at what cost and at what price does that come? Martin Luther King Jr., we all know about him, and one of the beautiful great quotes is, "The arc of the moral universe is very long, but it bends toward justice." And sometimes I wonder, does it really bend toward justice? Does it bend toward justice? Unless I throw our weight in, put our foot on the scale, and keep bending toward it because it feels like, doesn't feel like it often. Now, Martin Luther King Jr., he stands in a long line of prophets. And I had the privilege of visiting together with a group of clergy from Germany. We were in Atlanta at the Memorial Center, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Center. And there's this beautiful waterfall. And the inscription, let justice run down like waters, and righteousness like mighty streams. And you hear the water and hear the water and hear and immerse myself in that energy and think like, yes, that's what it is about. Now, the quote is not from him. The quote comes from the prophet Amos. It's like 2,500 years ago. There is a wisdom from Amos. There is a wisdom from the other prophets. There is a wisdom where Jesus stands in the line of the prophets. John the Baptist stands in that line. And so many other saints from our country stand in that line. And these are the people who basically say, some things are not right, we can do better. They say, like Amos, to the ruling people, you can do all your worship services, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously. You can have all the prayers, all the devotion. If your actions, what you do, don't reflect justice, kindness, mercy, you're missing the point. Basically, your religion, your faith, has to be married to your actions. Your actions are to reflect your faith convictions. Now, what I like about and to understand, sometimes I don't know what is justice. We often talk about justice, and usually my first point about justice is, well, go to the law. Justice, the court system, and so on. But justice in biblical terms is way wider. Justice is fairness, justice is kindness, justice is extended toward compassion, is like the broad, wide open arms. And this is how it goes when you think at the Old Testament. And when I think Old Testament, it's as valuable as the New Testament. Think of the Old Testament as Jesus' Bible. Jesus didn't have any New Testament. Jesus had the Old Testament, his Bible. That's what inspired him. That's what he lived. He lived in the footsteps of the prophets. And the law, the Torah. And the law is not like our law, constitution, and so on. In the Jewish understanding, the law is given by God for good human living. And prophets are the ones who raise hell because people left the good law of God, where God says, we know the Ten Commandments, we know how to treat each other, the golden rule, we know all of that. And the prophets rise up and say, when you don't follow that, that's when they are active. And sometimes we miss, I think, and I including myself, we miss over Jesus being the good shepherd that we have in the shepherd window, the one who loves and blesses the children, the one who heals those who are hurting, the one who is comforting. We miss that Jesus stands in a line of prophets of saying like, there is something not right here. You can do better. How you treat each other, how just this fairness is not present. So in that arc, in that long arc, I understand Jesus and the passage of, let me track a little bit back, okay? And cut this from the live stream so that people don't get it. I'm just gathering my thoughts. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they're the closest gospels to each other. They're called, they see some of the same things, synoptic gospels. And this passage we have just heard appears in the other, in Mark and Luke too. So sometimes when I don't get a passage, it's like, let's look at the Mark version, look at the Luke version. And to me, the Mark version that we have heard is even more clearer than the Matthew version. And in the Mark version, that reflects where Jesus said, pick up your cross and follow me. And give your life in service to others. That's what it is about. So when Jesus says, pick up your cross, I understand it as, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to love even when it costs you something? To stand up for what is right, even when it costs you something. And someone said, and this resonates with me strongly, that justice is what love looks like in the public sphere. Like when you think of, how do I love my neighbor in the community, those who are different than I am? How do I love them? By creating fairness, justice, inclusion, all of that for them. So justice is love in a public space. And that often comes at a cost, not to be silent, but to stand up, speak up, and witness to that, and stand with the vulnerable. It came at a cost for Jesus. So when Jesus healed and touched and those who had leprosy, a skin disease, just an infection in their hand, in their bones, on their skin, he was becoming unclean. He became untouchable himself according to the law. He did it anyway. Well, it came at a cost for religious leaders kept him outside. It came at a cost for him when he spoke to women, to foreigners, this woman at the Samaritan well, the Syrophoenician woman. It came at a cost for him that he sat down with the riffraff of society, the sinners and tax collectors. And he was feasting, celebrating, having parties, and they called him a drunkard and a glutton, so it came at a cost. And picking up your cross, in the end, the cross was not a symbol like we wear it today. At that time, the cross was capital punishment for those who stand up against the Roman Empire. So, if you live a different way than the Roman Empire, threaten the Roman Empire, you may be crucified. That was the cost of love that Jesus paid. What is the cost you are willing to pay for standing, for caring, for speaking for those who are struggling, those who are on the margins, those who do not belong, those who are not treated fairly? What are you willing to pay? For different people, those are different things. For me personally, I'm very concerned that our borough is considering entering an agreement with ICE in exchange for money for a police car and overtime and equipment. To me, I'll show up there and it will cost me probably something. But hey, sometimes it costs something. Where and how do you love and work for justice, even when it costs you something?